My neighbor is super superstitious, and he just thinks there's ghosts all over our neighborhood. Well, he decides to go a little too far with my privacy, so I'm going to show him maybe there's a lot more ghosts than he thinks.
Hey guys, long-time lurker, first-time poster. I've got a wild story that's been unfolding for the past month, and I need some outside perspective. I'll try to be concise, but there's a lot to cover. Background. I'm 26 and female, live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Think rows of townhouses, picket fences, people jogging with strollers, the works. About 3 months ago, a new neighbor moved into the townhouse adjacent to me. For the sake of the story, let's call him Mr. Mystery. Why? Because from the get-go, there was something off about him. The first time I met Mr. Mystery, it was a sunny afternoon, and I was returning from work. I saw him struggling to move a gigantic, ornate mirror into his front door. I decided to be neighborly and went over to help, but as I approached, he suddenly stopped, stared at me with wide eyes, and said, "No, stay back. It doesn't like strangers." Well, as you can imagine, that was pretty damn weird. But I assumed maybe he was talking about the delicacy of the mirror and did not want me to accidentally break it. So I just shrugged it off and continued on my way. Over the next couple of weeks, things just kept getting weirder. It began with loud chanting in the middle of the night. At first, I thought maybe he was just watching some intense movie, but it happened a lot, always at exactly 3 a.m. Then I started to notice bizarre symbols drawn in what looked like chalk all around his house and our shared boundary wall. When I tried to clean it, thinking it was just some random graffiti, it would not come off, and for the few occasions where I caught a glimpse into his house, well, not that I was snooping, but our living rooms face each other, I always saw him surrounded by large flickering candles. But the strangest part, no other furniture, just candles. But the true kicker came about 2 weeks ago. I have a little garden at the back of my house where I grow vegetables and herbs. I'm really proud of it and spend a lot of time tending to it. One morning I woke up to find all my plants uprooted. I also saw them laid out in some weird pattern, with that same chalky symbol in the center, and I was devastated. I tried talking to Mr. Mystery about it, knocking on his door and asking if he saw anything, but every time I tried, he would either pretend not to be home or answer the door with a blank stare and then slowly close it without even saying a word. Really weird stuff. Feeling frustrated, I set up a cheap security camera facing my garden. Sure enough, 2 days later, the footage showed Mr. Mystery sneaking into my garden late at night, doing something with my plants and drawing that darn symbol. I was pretty mad, as you can guess, but before confronting him, I did some online research. The symbol, as far as I could find, appeared to be related to some obscure old ritual. It got me genuinely scared, thinking that maybe I was living next to some cultist or something. I don't know, a warlock? After another week of strange happenings, I finally called the police. I just could not handle the anxiety anymore. They came, took my statement, watched the footage, and went over to the guy's house. I'm not sure what they found or discussed, but an hour later they left without arresting him. They did, however, tell me they'd advised Mr. Mystery to stay away from my property. Since the police visit, Mystery has been giving me cold stares and muttering to himself whenever he sees me. I've overheard him speaking to another neighbor, saying I overreacted and that he was just expressing his spirituality. I've been getting some dirty looks from the other neighbors too. Update number 1. Hey guys, it's been a couple weeks since I've last posted, and wow, things have absolutely escalated. First of all, thank you for the support and advice on my original post. Most of you were on my side and told me to trust my gut. Well, sit tight because things have gotten crazy. Following my last post, I decided to invest in a proper security system. Not just one measly camera facing the garden. Within days of installation, I started receiving alerts. The new system was sensitive enough to pick up any movement around the home, and every night around the same witching hour, it picked up. Mr. Mystery, pacing around my home, not only doing anything really, just pacing. It was so weird and eerie. One night, the alarm went off. I jolted awake and grabbed my phone and viewed the live feed. What I saw made my blood run cold. Mr. Mystery was standing at my front door facing the camera, not trying to hide or anything. He was holding that gigantic ornate mirror I mentioned in my last post, and he was chanting. The feed's audio picked up a deep, resonating hum that felt otherworldly. I called the cops. By the time they finally arrived, though, Mr. Mystery returned to his own house, leaving the mirror leaning against my door. But here's where things get even more weird. The police took the mirror into their custody, claiming it could be evidence, but one of the officers, a middle-aged woman, seemed unusually drawn to it. She kept glancing at it, whispering to it when she thought nobody was watching. A few days later, I received a knock on my door. It was a lawyer representing Mr. Mystery. He handed me a cease and desist letter, stating I was infringing on Mystery's religious rights and causing him emotional and spiritual harm. I was floored. How was protecting my property and myself causing him harm? I contacted a lawyer of my own. She's a fierce woman, specializing in neighbor disputes, and after reviewing all the evidence, the footage, the symbols, etc., she said it looked like he had a strong harassment case. She also mentioned that the symbols, based on her research, were protective in nature. Protective? But why? Now this is where the biggest bombshell dropped. Guys, remember that police officer who seemed weirdly attached to the mirror? She visited me one evening off duty and apologetically explained that ever since they took the mirror into custody, she's been having vivid dreams about it. In the dream, a voice kept repeating a message for me. The message? And I quote you this: "He's not the threat. He's trying to protect you." Confused and terrified, I pushed for answers. The officer hesitated but finally shared a local legend about a malicious spirit that roams our neighborhood. This spirit is particularly drawn to those with bright souls and can bring misfortune for whoever it possesses of the living. The mirror, she believed, was a conduit, and Mr. Mystery was conducting rituals to protect himself and others. Wow. This revelation has left me torn and more conflicted than before, and I'm not sure if I should believe in old legends or chalk it up to the paranoia, but the occurrences can't be denied. Mystery has not approached me since the police incident, and while I'm still hesitant to confront him about it, there's a growing feeling that perhaps I got this whole situation wrong. Anyways, I'll update you guys if anything else happens. Update number 2. Hello. First of all, I'm so sorry it's taken a month to update. The whirlwind of events in my life has been overwhelming, to say the least. I genuinely appreciate the thousands of messages, advice, comments, concerns, all of it from this community. And yes, I read every single one of them. What can I say? I was bored. So where to begin? After my last post, I took a step back to process everything. A part of me felt guilty for misunderstanding Mr. Mystery's intentions, but another part of me, perhaps the more dominant part, could not shake off the annoyance I felt towards him. Instead of approaching me like a rational person to explain things, he resorted to some cryptic methods of trespassing. I mean, if you're trying to protect somebody, isn't open communication the first step? With the legend fresh in my mind and the mysterious behavior, I thought of clearing the air with Mr. Mystery. So, we sat down at a local cafe, public place for safety reasons, and I listened. Well, with a hesitant voice, he confessed that he had felt an overwhelming energy around my house. He believed that he was indeed warding off malevolent spirits. The mirror. It was an heirloom, a relic that's been in his family for generations, supposedly holding protective powers. I thanked him for his intentions, but also firmly told him that he should have been upfront about it. Our truce was short-lived because a week later, I started to find small, petty annoyances around my property. My mailbox, for instance, was filled with glitter. Trust me, impossible to clean. My trash cans were knocked over every morning, and one time a foul-smelling liquid was poured over my vehicle. And every single time, my camera showed, yep, you guessed it, mystery. Smirking, clearly enjoying his petty revenge. It felt like high school all over again. Why the sudden change in attitude? According to one of the local gossipers, every community has one of those, Mr. Mystery felt humiliated by our public meeting, and the realization that he was in a way outed for his beliefs made him a laughingstock. My patience was wearing thin, but I decided two can play this game. I enlisted the help of a tech-savvy friend that devised a small, petty revenge of my own. One day, when Mr. Mystery was out, my friend and I rigged up a small speaker around his property. Late that night, as the witching hour approached, ghostly whispers and eerie sounds played on a loop around his house, using the same speakers that I planted that day. The security footage was pure gold. I'm talking Mystery frantically looking around, visibly shaking. Yeah, I know, petty and childish, but it felt so good for him just to get a taste of his own medicine. The next morning, Mystery was at my door, livid. We had a heated exchange where I pointed out that if he could play petty games, so could I. But then in a sudden shift, his anger turned to desperation. He explained that the night before was not just my prank. Alongside the sounds, he genuinely felt a malicious presence, more potent than ever before. Now, here I am, more conflicted than ever. Was it just a coincidence, or did my prank amplify whatever was truly out there? And what does this mean for our already strained neighborly relations? Guys, I'm at a loss. I want to protect my home and sanity, but I also can't help but feel that in seeking petty revenge, I might have reignited a larger problem. Update number 3. Hey guys, I never thought my life would turn into a series of wild events worthy of a post, but here we are. This will be my last update on this insane journey, so brace yourself. After my last post, the guilt of my revenge plan weighed heavily. Regardless of Mystery's actions, retaliating in such a way just wasn't me. I spent days thinking about it and finally swallowed my pride. I decided to apologize. I invited my neighbor over for a chat, intended for it to be an open and honest discussion. We sat in my living room. The tension was in the air. I began with an apology, admitting that despite his antics I should not have tried to scare him, especially knowing the superstitions that he believed in. Well, he took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair, looking more disheveled than I'd ever seen him. He explained that ever since that night he had been having nightmares, visions of a malicious spirit, and the spirit was no longer just lurking around my house. It shifted to focus on him. He believed that my prank had drawn its attention towards him directly, acting as a beacon. My heart sank hearing this. I had intended to give him a scare, yes, but I never imagined the consequences would be this severe. To my surprise, Mystery also had an apology of his own. He confessed that his petty revenge were misguided and stemmed from embarrassment of, hurting his ego. But he also admitted something more profound. The whole reason he moved to our neighborhood, specifically that townhouse next to mine, was that he was running away from the spirit. The mirror was not just protective, it was a tether that kept the spirit from fully consuming his life. He believed that in his rituals to protect me, he might have unintentionally passed the tether on to me. Shivers ran down my spine. Everything started to make sense. His initial protectiveness over the mirror, the symbols, the rituals, but why me? Mystery believed that some souls are brighter than others, more attractive to entities beyond our understanding. The next few days were a blur. We both decided that we had to do something, not just for our peace of mind, but for our safety, so we sought out a local spiritual expert. An elderly woman with deep knowledge of the legend and rituals, and with her guidance we performed a cleansing ceremony of such on both of our houses, and she gave us protective talismans. She took the mirrors, assuring us that she'd find a place for it, far, far away from any human habitations. The atmosphere in our neighborhood seems lighter now. Mr. Mystery and I have formed some sort of a truce. We're not friends per se, but there's a mutual respect now. We've both agreed to sell our house and move on, hoping for a fresh start without the shadows of the past. In this crazy journey, I've learned a lot about myself, but I do want to ask everybody listening and who's followed all the updates, am I the a-hole for taking the actions that I took? Comment number 1 from all the updates. Wow, I can't believe after all the effort to sit down and talk to, well, your neighbor, he started that series of petty attacks on you. It truly boggles the mind how some neighbors can be so unnecessarily difficult. Sorry that you had to deal with such a strong individual. Clearly, your neighbor is the a-hole here. Comment number 2. Honestly, just the weird activities alone would have had me packing up my bags and moving out ASAP. Who needs that kind of weirdness in their life? You definitely do not deserve to deal with such creepy stuff from a neighbor, OP. You're not the a-hole at all. Comment number 3. Look, I actually kind of feel for your neighbor here. I've had my share of ghostly encounters, and let me tell you, it's not easy when everybody thinks you're just making things up or losing your mind. The world can be quick to label what they don't understand. Maybe your neighbor is genuinely experiencing something supernatural and everybody's just labeling him crazy. I'm glad that it got sorted out in the end, but honestly, I don't think anyone's the a-hole in this situation.
So it looks like a lot of the comments were just talking about how they were disappointed that OP had to talk to this mystery guy because he came across as really weird, really strange, and just straight up out there. So I do want to know your thoughts about this, guys. Have you ever come across somebody that was really superstitious about stuff like this? If you have, share your experience down below in the comment section. We still have one more story to cover today, so we're going to go ahead and jump into story number 2 of the day, which, yes, it's an Am I the A-hole story, and it's coming at you right now.
Alright, so let me set the stage. I'm a 16-year-old male, and I've never really been the type to stir the pot, you know? I go to school, hang out with my friends, play some video games in my free time, and just basically try to get through the day without any drama. But for the past couple of months, there's been this one dude, let's call him Jake, who's been making my life an actual nightmare. I honestly don't even know why he started to bully me. We used to be kinda cool with each other back in middle school, but high school started and suddenly I became like his personal target or something. It began with small, annoying stuff, like when he'd, quote, accidentally bump into me in the hallways or toss my backpack to the other side of the classroom when I wasn't looking. It's been getting worse, though. Last week, he started this stupid rumor that I have a crush on my math teacher, Miss Parker, who is in her 50s. I mean, no offense to that, but seriously? Now, every time I walk into class, there's somebody whispering or giggling. Well, I can barely focus because it's so embarrassing. But the last straw, the thing that was really made me snap, was the food incident. I was just chilling with my friends in the cafeteria, talking about this new video game coming out, when suddenly I felt something wet and gooey hit the back of my head. I turned around and there was Jake laughing with his goon squad, holding an empty tray. Everybody else in the cafeteria was laughing also. They had thrown a spaghetti plate at me. My new hoodie was ruined because it was white and that's never going to come out. And I felt so humiliated. My friends were like, dude, just ignore him. He's not worth it. But man, I was fed up. The next day, I went to the school counselor and spilled everything about Jake and what he's actually been doing to me. She seemed super concerned and said that she'd look into it. So let's fast forward now, just a couple of days. Apparently, Jake got called into the principal's office and got a 2-day suspension. I thought maybe this would teach him a lesson, right? No, wrong. Now it's even worse. Somehow word got out that I was the one who ratted him out. I've been getting dirty looks from so many people, and some of Jake's friends have been sending me very nasty messages. But the worst part is, now even some of my friends are saying that I overreacted, that I should have just stood up to Jake myself or just taken it as a joke. Even my best friend Ryan was like, ugh, bro, Maybe you shouldn't have gotten the school involved, dude. Was I supposed to just let him walk all over me? I don't know, man. Let me know what you guys think, and I will update you in a bit. Update number 1. Alright, so it's been a couple of weeks since the whole Jake got suspended because I snitched incident. I thought maybe the drama would just die down a bit once Jake came back to school. But boy, was I wrong. Honestly, if you thought things were bad before, you're in for a wild ride with this update. So Jake came back after his 2-day suspension with this newfound sense of vengeance. At first, he acted all calm and cool like he had just let the whole thing slide. He even approached me in the hallway on the first day back and said, "Hey man, no hard feelings, let's just move on, yeah?" I was hopeful for a second, thinking maybe we could put all this right behind us, bygones be bygones. But by the end of the same day, I realized that he had some serious plans up his sleeve. First, it was my locker. I got to school one morning and my combination simply did not work. I was confused, but then I noticed a weird, sticky substance all over the lock. Somebody poured super glue into it. I took the janitor, right to my locker, and it took the janitor hours to get it open, and I had to attend most of my classes without any of my books or homework. Then things took an even weirder turn. I started receiving these tiny anonymous notes from other students telling me that they were from Jake. Little pieces of paper folded up with messages like, "Watch your back, snitches get stitches." It was super creepy, and I knew that Jake was behind it, but of course I had no evidence. But the time was just too coincidental, but what was the worst incident was during the gym. We were all playing dodgeball, which I'm not even good at, by the way. Jake, of course, was on the opposite team. He made sure to target me the entire time, and I swear that guy has a cannon for an arm, because every time he hit me, it felt like I was being smacked by a truck. At one point, I fell to the ground in one of his throws, and while everybody laughed, he made this smug face and shouted out, "Rat!" Some of my friends tried to defend me during these incidents, especially Ryan, who felt bad for doubting me before. But it was clear Jake had turned a lot of people against me, and I felt isolated. I could barely focus in class, and my grades started to slip. It was like a dark cloud was constantly looming over me. The only bright spot during this whole ordeal was Emily. She's this super chill girl from my history class who surprisingly reached out and said she believes me, and that Jake is totally out of line. She even shared that Jake had been mean to her once or twice in the past. So, we started hanging out more, and it felt nice to have some genuine care. But still, every day was an uphill battle. I was on the edge all the time, constantly wondering what Jake would do next. It was exhausting, and one night I broke down and told my parents everything. They were super worried and wanted to get the school involved, again. But I was scared that it would just make things worse. Part of me wants to stand up to Jake and face him head on. Another part of me just wants to disappear and hope it all goes away. I never thought high school would be this brutal. What do you guys think that I should even do? Update number 2. Hey, so it's been a whole month since I've last updated, and boy do I have a story for you. After enduring Jake's constant torment, I decided it's finally time to take matters into my own hands. No more playing defense, and what better way to serve revenge than making it public, right? Here's how it all went down. With all the stress Jake's been causing me, I found an unexpected outlet, Drama Club. Yeah, that's right, I joined the Drama Club mostly because Emily, my history class friend, was in it, and she said it might help me take my mind off of things. Plus, we were planning the year-end play, which is usually a big event for the school. The play was a comedy about a high school kid who gets revenge on the school bully. Yeah, kinda meta, huh? I landed a pretty decent role, but more importantly, I had a brilliant idea that would involve Jake without him even knowing about it. The final act had this big scene where the bully gets a taste of his own medicine during a school assembly. My character was supposed to pull a prank that dumps a bucket of slime. It's actually just a mix of harmless ingredients. Anyways, right onto the bully as a funny turning point in the play. Now, for the play, we had a student actor. For the bully role, But I thought, why not make this a bit more authentic? With Emily's help and a couple of other drama club members, we set up a secret plan. We spread a rumor that there would be a special guest from our school playing the bully, creating enough buzz that even Jake's ego would not let him decline if he was, quote, chosen. To no one's surprise, Jake caught wind of the rumor and thought he would be the perfect star for the show. With a fake invitation in his locker from the drama club, of course, he stubbornly accepted, thinking he had a chance to mock me on stage. Fast forward to the night of the play. The auditorium was absolutely packed and everybody was excited about the special guest of the evening. Jake strutted onto stage with his usual cocky attitude when his part came up. Loving every moment, little did he know the spotlight was about to shine on him in a way that he never expected. The final act arrived, and just as planned, I pulled the prank in the play. A bucket of green slime poured down on Jake, drenching him from head to toe. The audience roared with laughter, and for the first time, Jake was the one receiving the end of the embarrassment. He looked like a deer caught in headlights, completely stunned, and I could not help but smirk. The plan was a huge hit. And then talk of the school for days, and many students said that the special guest appearance was the highlight. Jake tried to play it off like he was in on the joke, but everyone knew the truth, and for once I walked through the halls with my head held high, feeling proud of my little act of revenge. But I wonder, with the year end coming up, how would this all play out? Anyways, I'll update you soon enough. Update number 3. Hey guys, here's the final chapter of my updates. A lot's happened in the past week, and you guys won't believe some of the twists and turns. First things first, the aftermath of the play was insane. Everybody was talking about Jake's unexpected sliming. Clips of it went viral on social media, and even students from neighboring schools had seen it. For once, Jake was not the fearsome bully. He was the guy who got pranked in front of the entire school. And while I expected him to retaliate, something totally unexpected happened instead. A couple of days after the play, Jake approached me. Not with his usual gang of followers, but alone. He looked different. Not defeated, but definitely humbled, and he said, "Oh, look, man, I get it. You gave me a taste of my own medicine to say, and it was a good prank, I'll give you that." I braced myself for some kind of threat, but it never came. "I've been a jerk to you. I'm sorry. Can we just call it even?" Honestly, I was shocked. This was not the Jake that I knew. We talked for a bit, and it turned out that he had a lot going on at home. Not that it exactly excused his behavior, but it explained a lot. The public humiliation from the play had given him a reality check. He told me he did not want to be remembered as the high school bully. We didn't exactly become friends after that conversation, but we came to a mutual understanding. Since then, he's actually left me and a lot of others alone. But not everybody was thrilled about the way things played out. The principal called me into his office later that week because word's gotten around about how Jake's appearance in the play was not exactly consensual. While he admired the creativity of the prank, he said that revenge was not the answer. He gave me a very stern warning and said that any further incidents would lead to disciplinary actions, but between you and me, I could swear I saw a hint of a smile when he mentioned the prank. As for the rest of the school, opinions are divided. Some students thought it was best, well, it was the best thing ever, that Jake had it coming, and others, including some of my friends, think I stooped to his level and should have just took the high road. Even Emily, who was in on the prank, expressed a bit of concern. Yeah, she was happy Jake was leaving people alone, but worried about the potential consequence of her actions. What if he had not have taken it so well, she asked. Anyways, here I am, guys, wrapping up this saga. High school is weird. Y'all, it's been nothing but up and downs. I'm just glad to be nearing the end of it now. But I have to ask something out of you guys. Am I the a-hole for doing what I did? Even though I don't regret it, I'm curious about your take on the whole situation. Let me know what you think. Comment number 1 from the original post in the updates. Look, anyone who's being bullied knows that sometimes you have to take a stand, OP. OP did not physically harm Jake, he just gave him a taste of his own medicine. The fact that Jake eventually apologized proves that sometimes a wake-up call is in fact needed. Jake humiliated OP over and over, and the one time OP fights back, we're gonna crucify him? Nah, OP, you're definitely not the a-hole here. Comment number 2. While I feel for OP and everything that he said he went through, publicly humiliating somebody is never okay. It's a low blow. And honestly, it's stooping to the bully's level. 2 wrongs do not make a right. By doing this, OP might have perpetuated the cycle instead of breaking it. He should have taken the high road and dealt with this maturely. Sorry, OP, but in this case, you're the a-hole.